minutes of the December 18th, 2024 meeting of the Blowing Rock Board of Adjustments. Does anyone have any changes, amendments, or see any problems with the minutes? Any board member?
Page 2, paragraph 8, that starts the proposed golf cart garage, where it says 13.82 feet, that should actually be 16.18. And the 14.81 should actually be 15.19. All right, and I pointed that out. I guess it didn't get into this copy.
The proposed golf cart garage will encroach. Is that the paragraph you're talking about?
Yeah, instead of saying 13.82, it should say 16.18, because 13.82 is the distance from the driveway. I mean, from the road, as opposed to coming back from the house. So it was an encroachment of 16.18 feet, not 13.8.
You did say it the last meeting.
And the elevator covered entry will encroach 14.81.
That should be 15.19.
Okay, all right. Ms. Miller, you got that?
It's not that big a deal.
Okay. Anyone else have anything? I've got a couple things. On page 2 at the very top, Chairman Springs asked if any board members had gone to the addressing question to see the property. Three members stated they had driven by the property, while 2 members stated they had not gone by the property. If it'd been unanimous one way or another, that would have been fine. But when there's a split, you need to say who did go. In case something comes up later, we need to know who it was. So written this way, we don't know who the 2 was and who the 3 was. The second paragraph, Chairman Springs stated that he was unaware of any other parties who may believe they have standing in the case. I asked that as a question. It has to be asked, is there anyone else that thinks they have standing to enter this case as a party? So I asked it as a question. So to fix it, I think I said, is there anyone, and it's a room like this, and obviously no one was here, but you still have to ask the question, is there anyone that feels like they have standing to enter this case as a party? So just show that I asked the question, and no one responded. And I have nothing else, excuse me. So I move that we accept the minutes of the December 18th, 2024 meeting with the amendments as stated. By the second by Mr. Walker. All in favor of approving those minutes, say aye. 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 It's unanimous. Did everyone get a copy of the staff report for the Robert Estes Pine Cottage Trust variance hearing? Everyone get the staff report?
Yes.
Yes.
Everyone says yes. I got my copy. Couldn't open it, but I got a printed copy. Mr. Estes, did you get a copy of the staff report?
I did.
Okay. Did you have any objections to the staff report the way it came out?
I did not, other than my legal name is Bob. It's not Robert.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's open up the January 23rd, 2025 meeting of the Blowing Rock Board of Adjustment. We have one variance case tonight. That's applicant Bob Estes as trustee for the Pine Cottage Trust. Our minutes are going to be kept by Ms. Taylor Miller, and she is a town employee. She actually works in the planning and inspections office. Mr. Estes, do you have any objection to Ms. Miller, a town employee, keeping our minutes?
I do not.
Mr. Brian Johnson, our zoning enforcement officer, do you object to Ms. Miller keeping the minutes?
No, sir.
Okay, no objection. The North Carolina Court of Appeals has told us that they want us to let everyone know the procedures we're going to follow in the hearing, and these are the procedures we're going to follow. This hearing is a quasi-judicial hearing. It is conducted according to the rules and laws pertaining to quasi-judicial hearings. It will have all of the essential elements of a fair trial. Parties will have the opportunity to give evidence, cross-examine witnesses, inspect documents, and testimony shall be under oath. The board's findings will be based upon substantial material and competent evidence. Does anyone have any questions about those procedures? A board member in this case must not participate or vote in any manner that would violate an affected person's constitutional right to an impartial decision maker. Impermissible violations of due process include not disclosing any ex parte communications a member had about this case prior to the hearing. A member must not have a fixed opinion prior to the hearing as to whether this particular variance should or should not be granted, and they should not be biased. A member must not have a fixed opinion as to whether all variances in general should or should not be granted, should not be biased that way. A member must not participate in this case if the member has any close familial, business, or other close relationship with the person involved in this case. And a member must not have any financial interest in the outcome of this case. Does any member of the board need to disclose any of these problems?
No.
No. We have 5 no's, so it's unanimous. No one has any problem with it. Now, as members of this board, we are allowed to go by and look at the property in question. We're not allowed to engage in conversation about it there, but we're allowed to go see it. Has any member of the board gone to look at the property in question? That is 659 Dogwood Lane. If you've looked at it, raise your hand. And Mr. Shaw has not. So everyone but Mr. Shaw has gone to the property and looked at it. Is there anyone who considers themselves a party to this case? Anyone that feels that they would suffer special damages if they didn't participate in this case? Mr. Johnson, are you aware of anyone that felt like they were a party to this case and should come into the case?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, we're going to swear all the witnesses at one time. Mr. Estes, I'm sure you're going to be a witness. Mr. Rothrock, are you going to be a witness? Okay, all right. Mr. Johnson, come on up, and our clerk is going to swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you shall give this body in this matter be true, shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
What we'll do, Mr. Estes, is have the town representative, Mr. Johnson, you're going to give the staff. Mr. Johnson, the zoning enforcement officer, is going to give what the town knows about this case. Basically go through the staff report, and then he'll take any questions that you may have of him, any questions we may have of him, and then we'll turn to your side, and you can speak and tell us anything you want to. Go through things in the staff report. If you have other materials, other photographs or anything else, you can introduce those then. So you'll go right after Mr. Johnson.
Okay.
Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, Chairman. Board. Tonight, we've got variance case 2024-03, applicant Bob Estes, which is with us here. Is the applicant. Location of the subject property is Dogwood Lane, which is towards the end of Dogwood Lane. Just to clarify, there is, I think, an address tied to it, which is 659. I think may have been addressed when he went through his septic approval process. So we can reference that. Property is zoned R15 single family. Mr. Estes is requesting a setback variance from Land Use Ordinance Section 16-12.4 and the applicable north and west 12-foot side setbacks for constructing a single-family home and garage. The vacant property, which is vacant now, is located within that 600 block of Dogwood, further identified as 659 Dogwood Lane, and also located in Caldwell County, identified with Caldwell County PIN 2807-935310. The property contains approximately 0.490 acres, and again, it's zoned R15 single family. The requested setback variance that he's requesting tonight is a 9-foot encroachment into the north 12-foot side setback, which is where the garage is actually located on the property there. And then he's requesting a 7-foot encroachment setback variance from the applicable 12-foot side setback, which is on the left side of the property when you're facing up on it. This is the west side, the north side. Again, the subject property is vacant. It does have a driveway, an older driveway that's cut in up to here. And there's a little partial parking area in this area right here, which you can see with the pictures we can take a look at in a little while. The proposed garage will be 3 feet from the north property line, which is this measurement right here. 12-foot side setback is here. And then on the western property line, 7 foot here. So the outer eave, the corner eave of that, and the covered porch is 5 feet from that west property line. Also along, and Mr. Estes can speak with this, and I do have his permit if we need to make it part of the record. But the proposed septic area is in this lower right-hand corner here. And Mr. Estes can speak to that a little bit more with his testimony. Also in your packet, there's both a survey, there's a site plan, there's a survey, and there's also a topographic survey to show the elevation contours and the steepness of the property there. Mr. S has included several photos there, which is in your packet. If you feel like we need to go through any of those, we can. I do have a copy of the septic permit, like I said, if we need to make it part of the record, but other than that, I'll take any questions.
Mr. Estes, do you have any objection to the septic permit being made a part of the record?
No.
All right, it is part of the record. Do you have a copy to put in the file, Mr. Johnson? Or you will at some point have a copy you'll put in the file? he's gone. Is that your presentation? Anyone have any questions of the zoning enforcement officer?
I do. Is the land to the west of the property, is that a vacant lot or is that owned by the house that's also to the west of the property?
So there's a home
Over there,
to the left of this property. This is a vacant property.
and they were notified, of course, of this.
They were, yes.
And are there any zoning requirements or issues with the embankment that's to the north?
Here,
Like next to, there's a very, very steep, large embankment right there.
I don't foresee any issues there. And we can kind of see the,
You can't really see it in the pictures, I don't think.
You're talking to the left of the driveway. Doesn't seem like there's a lot between the house and the
Yeah, so
No,
you just
I
said-
believe-
Who said there is?
where'd it go? The property line is somewhere in this area right here. Just-
Right.
I can see it on the picture. I can't pick it up. I think it's right there.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I saw the stakes. It is, it's right there.
Anyone else have any more questions? I've got a couple. Mr. Johnson, as far as notices. Thank you, sir. Have you given notices of this hearing to property owners in close proximity to this property?
We did notify property owners within 150 feet, and there were approximately 9 that were notified.
Did you hear back from anyone?
I did receive one call from a Mr. Dennis Morris, and he's the,
Don't tell us what he said, but where was his property located in relation to this one?
his property is the vacant property to the left, or excuse me, to the west of Mr. Estes.
Okay. What did he do, telephone?
He telephoned me, yes.
And you chatted with him?
Yes.
So you didn't hear from the other 8? Let's see, as far as the required sign, did you put up the required sign?
Yes.
And so you made all of the required private and public notices of this hearing?
Yes, we did.
And the staff report itself, we're going to enter it into the record of this hearing.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Mr. Estes, any objection to the staff report being a record, going into the file of this case, being part of the record?
I have no objection.
Okay, it is now part of the record of this case. Mr. Estes, do you have any questions of Mr. Johnson?
Do not.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Estes, come up and tell us about what you want to do.
I prepared some notes to try to keep myself on track with your process, and as I understand it, I would like to start out and express my appreciation and thanks to Kevin and Brian. They've been very professional and have guided me through this process, and I do the same for all you to come out on a cold night to hear this. I've spent 7 years on the Board of Adjustments in Cocoa Beach, So I know what it means to contribute your time, and I appreciate it. There's a lot of things I could say and do, but I'm going to do my best to stick to the punchlines here. When we bought the lot, we had it cleared about a month and a half, 2 months later, and then we realized a lot more about the lay of the land. And it took quite a while from that point to get to this point. We had a hard time getting in touch with the original surveyor to get the topography indications that we needed for both ourselves and the building and for the septic system. We've used Land Resource Management Group, Walker Ferguson, to that. They've been pretty active up to now on determining where the septic drain field could be. It'll be a drip system because the makeup of the soil is pretty rocky there. And as anybody that's gone there sees, pretty steep. So that the roadway was created, it has a little bit more than our property included. So we have an easement in front of the two other properties there on the street. And as they made that easement, they continued that on into our property a good ways and made a nice driveway. And not only did they cut it into the property that you can see to the north and create the wall along that side, but there's some fill that's been brought in. You can see chunks of blacktop, things like that you would expect to see. So that comes into play a little bit on the approach to what we wanted to do with the house and the layout. So when we look at that, there is if you get close to the edge on the south side, you can see, once we cleared it, a platform there to be able to put a foundation in fairly flat, I think, with minimal grading. And it is shifted towards the property to the west, and that's why we are encroaching into that area and asking for an easement there. When you look at the nature of that driveway, it's basically built for a straight-in garage, but a couple things come to mind once you start getting into the details of it. It is a severe drop-off from that, and if we do, we're not successful with this, and we get some sort of a partial garage, and that whole gap there of the 12 feet is a real safety concern for me, because the reason, one of the main reasons we're building this is to enjoy blowing rock with this as a legacy project. I've got two new grandchildren that live about 6 hours away, so the concern about kids and everybody in general is part of that. So the garage and the encroachment into that side yard setback allows for what you would think would be an appropriate use of that nice drive, and eliminate some of that open area that it steps off quite quick. So that's kind of the nature of the project. And I'll try my best to deal with the 4 categories of information that you need. I would say that if you've looked through the pictures at all, the lady in the pictures is my sweet wife, who up to the time when we couldn't get hold of the surveyor to get any kind of topography indications, I bought a paint roller arm, and had her sit there and hold it and try to take pictures and measure how far out to get indications of the slope. It wasn't quite scientific, but you now have that great map, so I'll give her credit for that. The first question, I see the unnecessary hardship question. I'll say this, and not in any way, it's just a state of current affairs. There's a lot of cabins down that way that have been there for many years, and the price of those lots were probably cabin type lots back then. The price of this lot and the anticipation of what we wanted to do with it is, I think, reasonable and appropriate for the neighborhood. And to not to be able to have a garage is a little contrary to what you would think that a lot like that in a neighborhood like that in this day and time would come with. And I have information about what we paid for the lot, if anybody's interested in that. I guess reasonable use comes into question, and reasonable use of that land is tough because of the drop off in the topography in general. So we really crowded ourselves up to the top and try to, basically all we can utilize is that driveway. And that will become our yard unless we can tear us down. At this point, I don't know if we can do that too well, but a couple of things to just reiterate as it pertains to this subject. I think the safety at the end of the drive is not only for me, but for anyone else that would wander down there. The intent of that setback at the end of my property is the conservancy. And the area of the setback is only about 10 feet on that property to the north of us. That will be close to. Most of that drive at the end is in, well, it terminates down into the gorge there of the conservancy. All right. And I think a reasonable use of that is to be able to and I would ask for you to consider that. I know, and I respect zoning laws and understand why they're there. In this case, I think it's exceptional with what's been done to the lot. Part of it, I'll talk more about it. It keeps coming back around as a lot of these questions will pertain to it. The next one is topography, and when you look at your second bullet on the law and what you need to look at. I've already spoken to some of this. When we cleared the land, we realized what we really had to deal with. One thing that comes into play is if we can locate the garage where we're asking to, we'll be able to tie the two foundation walls together and create a block to stabilize what's there now. It would be awkward to build a wall and still leave it 12 feet from the edge on the north side, because as I said, that drive contains some fill, some riprap. And so the idea that we've talked about with the architect is to adjoin maybe if you go back to that site plan, it might be a little easier to understand. It kind of gets into the technicalities of it, but at some point through the middle of that garage, let's see here, well, this is nice. So somewhere here where the driveway drops off dramatically, and this is a big ravine, which our property line is well down in it. Of course, the lot comes this way, but somewhere we would put a foundation wall that would somehow tie in to this basement wall and create an L of a retaining wall, more or less to speak of. Of course, we use part of it for support. And then we can backfill that with appropriate grade and rock to stabilize that and not have any worries, because it's quite this property to the north here is quite steep coming down, and there's quite a bit of vegetation there. There's no homes there. It's just a wooded area that's not developed. And the folks that live here in this house, that's one big lot, and they told me they never intend to develop it. So with the way things have gone here in the last year, who knows from a water and rain and fire standpoint what we've got to deal with. But one of the considerations I have is to be able to stabilize that drive. I don't want it to ever go anywhere. So that's one of the benefits of being able to locate the garage on an L, if you will, from the home to shore up that driveway. Let's see if I've covered everything. And it's part of the uniqueness of the property, unique conditions of property, to have two areas like that to be concerned about. a lot of the lots, of course, from one side, we all know they're steep and people take care of that, but to be able to manage both of those is fairly unique to this property. Getting to number 3, a hardship not a result of any actions taken by the applicant. I'll restate that I only realized after several months when we could get back, my wife and I live in Orlando, and when we got back and hired fellows to come and clear the lot, we really could see more about what we had there other than just a great view across the mountains. So that's when we realized there was quite a few things to deal with. I have built in the past, and for some reason I thought I was in the country and didn't really think much about a side yard setback until that point, and then talked with Kevin and realized that I need to go through this process to see if I could make it happen. So we just inherited what's there, and that lot has been off the market for quite a while. We just put back on, I think back in March or April of last year, and we saw it several months later. On the 4th bullet, as the law goes, it talks about the consent is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the regulations, and public safety is secured. And again, I'll go back to that. I don't know if we'll put a gate up on that lane going back to us, but there's several people here in town I know that know that area because of that access back that way to that reserve. But if you don't know what you're doing and it's dark, you could really get in trouble. It's hard even in the daytime. I've had to get down and take those pictures of my wife, and I'll tell you, it's really steep. So I think by being able to cap that off in a way without just a fence, something to maintain, we can utilize it. And I would ask you to consider that. I don't know if I have anything else. I hope I've covered, my goal to come here is to answer your questions and provide the testimony to answer any things and justify what we want to do with the home, and I hope I've done that. I'm looking forward to being a part of this community, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Mr. Johnson, do you have any questions of Mr. Estes? Any board member have any questions of Mr. Estes?
Where's the Conservancy land on this layout here?
Yeah, it starts just at the edge of our property here, and it runs down and over this way. This is, there's a gully that starts somewhere up here, and it's an old creek, I think, but it's really deep. And then there are 2 lots down below. There's an access road at the bottom. It really provides access to 2 more lots. This is really a set of 4 lots that are available. They're not really on the market. But that line right there, if you draw it down, pretty much is the boundary of the Conservancy here. And then it goes up in like a finger, I think, that way.
Thanks.
That was donated by the original landowners back, for my time, so.
Anyone else have any questions of Mr. Estes?
Can you explain more why the house can't be located further to the east? When I looked at the land, I mean, it's steep,
Right.
but from right to left when you were looking down.
Yes,
It didn't seem like it was steeper over to the looking down the left of that house.
Exactly. Well, and that's a good question. Once we cleared the lot, I didn't really know what we had to deal with. I figured we would find a little bit of a ledge, but there is a natural landing platform there. And it starts closer here, and it ends, right over here on this edge. So we'll have to put probably some build up wall or whatever, but we've tried to utilize it, the lay of the land to minimize grading and impact, to the nature of it. So that's, it's been a combination of the architect going out, surveyor being there, and input from the septic group. They're pretty experienced and know this area well. So we Yeah, we shift it down. What it gets down to, you don't think about it so much when you're just looking at the drawings of a house, but once you put the eaves on it, the 2-foot overhangs that we're gonna have to, keep the rain off the house. And then we did the covered porch here. We're pretty much in line there. I don't know if it looks like it, but so the edge of the house, the edge of that concrete are pretty much in line with each other. And we can take one back, but we still have the overhang of the house there. It's a matter of a couple of feet. And it's just another thing to consider. Yeah, that's my dog. I apologize for bringing him. I'm traveling alone. My wife has gone ahead to, my second grandson just been born this week, so she would have him at the hotel otherwise. So yeah, that's that. And that shelf there does run out pretty quick. And when it drops off here, it doesn't just drop off, it drops off. I mean, it goes down. If that answers your question.
Is the question, is the breezeway an actual open space or is that attached to the house?
It's a breezeway at this point. Yeah, it's a breezeway with that foundation going under it. A passage out to, at some point, we have to contend with what we've got over here. We'll have some kind of a walkway that we'll have to get around that side of the house. But again, a lot of it was just to use this area for best use, I think.
Anyone else have any questions of Mr. Estes? I have a few. Mr. Estes, you said the house location, Mr. Walker was asking, well, why not just move it a little bit to the east? But you said it was a good natural landing spot. Tell us more about that.
It's a natural shelf on the land. When you get over to that edge and look down, you can see a natural shelf there that it'd take a little bit of clearing. I've had Chris Estes, who's been around here for a long time. It's an excavation company, and he's looked at it and he said, yeah, if you can get it as far over as you can. I've taken as much input from folks to help guide me on this steep property. So that was the main reason. And not to have to dig it down a lot to balance it out with where the drop off starts, because every 2 feet, I don't know, it's like 3 feet down, and then it gets faster, so more steep.
Is there a picture that kind of shows that? When
You
I
know,
went there, I
it's-
drove all the way in and walked that whole perimeter.
I've tried. There is some pictures. It's hard to capture that when you're looking down on it.
I couldn't tell.
Yeah, but if you put your eyeball on it, you can actually see. Surprisingly, there's a flat area that it's almost like someone had gone in, probably just another rock shelf, and then it drops again, and it's down. It's going to be a pretty deep basement to get to it, but that's why we went that way. That's it right there. So yeah, and see, this doesn't show it. When I was taking the pictures, of course, I climbed down to get there. I was more trying to capture the slope. But right in, so I'd say this is probably 20 feet or so. Right in here, you can kind of see it. It's just barely starting there. It starts to flatten out. So, if that's 20 feet, it's not quite 20 feet from there. But we'll have to clear out a little bit. But
Is that picture looking back towards Dogwood or back towards
that's
the
back
red
towards
gate?
Dogwood.
Yeah.
That's the house on the corner that you turn left in front of. And the red gate would be, the red gate, if you've been out there, that rickety red gate is over here.
Okay.
Red gate's just a nice landmark, tell people they found it, So,
If you go back to the picture of the driveway, it looks like where there's another one, that one.
that one.
Where would the garage start? Is it part of that? Or is it past that?
I think the,
Approximately. I know.
right, the property line runs like right,
It's right there. at the-
right in here. Run along
Right.
as soon as that starts up, so about 3 feet over be the overhang, and then another 2 feet. So we'll have a little bit there. But the property above, I was trying to talk about earlier, it doesn't run as deep as our property. It's, so we're in about 10 feet, we're into the conservancy. So we're basically about 10 feet in where it's gonna be affecting that lot, if it affects it at all. Because
That embankment is,
that wall's what, 20,
it's
20,
very,
25
very
feet.
high and steep.
So, and it's mainly rock, you know.
So the garage is more on the existing
It's just right on the end of the
driveway?
drive. Yeah, it's right on the end of that drive there.
So it doesn't go over the
You get the
edge.
garage like that, and the house will be into the right facing this way.
So the garage doesn't really go over that edge.
It doesn't what?
Doesn't go over that edge.
Oh, no.
Okay.
We're gonna lay it, we got good land there, we'll lay it up on there with foundation, and then drop back another, I don't know, wherever it would be, to put a footer in, and then come up with another, concrete block wall we can tie in and make an L with the house. And then that way we can fill in, and it won't all be dry, but some of the house, the porch area will be over it, so. That's one of the unique things about trying to do that, yeah. Sure it up a bit. Any other questions?
Is there a subterranean area down there, of a couple, are you developing a level down, a basement, so to speak? You can have bedrooms in the basement, whatever.
I don't think we're planning to put bedrooms there, you know, it'll be, probably just a gathering area at this point. But it's, it'll be above the septic, anything at that level will still be above septic, because it still drops down quite a bit. I think in my letter, it gives the slope of property, and that's from the septic company, Land Resource Management. So it's, I think it's 50-something or 60, so it's a continual, it's fortunate to have a little flat spot, because the rest of it is pretty, it's straight on down, you know. So.
Anything else, Brian?
Yeah, I think so. Brian? If you run back down through those pictures, go to the next one. You already answered that one, go to the next one. Which direction is that picture taken? What are you facing?
Let's see, what I am looking at the side of the garage. My wife is basically on the corner of the driveway.
Like where the fence,
The garage
closer to
would
the
be,
fence?
the garage is out where she's holding the stick, and the house would be on this side. So this is trying to show that angle on the back side of the garage and down into the ravine.
Uh-huh.
And this is where the house would be along this way.
And then Brian, the next picture.
What's that?
Ask Brian to go to the
You
next
might want to show
picture.
where the septic is.
So is that the same? You're also facing east?
Yeah.
Well, the back of the house is, the front of the house is due south, so you're basically facing north, and the face of the garage is facing west. Yeah,
Brian, the next picture. That's facing east?
that's looking right over the end of the driveway,
Okay.
so, yeah, that's looking east. Right, down into the ravine. And even then, with a picture like that, you really can't appreciate how steep it is.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's,
If you go down one more, go back up one. Let's see. Now this one is right there. That's a good indication of the property line. There's a flag, you can't really see it. There's a flag right there, I think. That might be it. A little straight line, or maybe even a little bit further over.
Oh, that's one, but I don't think that's a property line. That's what we're talking about, putting in a temporary park. If you go up just a little bit, this flag here, that's an actual property line peg. That's one of the good markers, you know, number peg they put in. That's where that back property line is. So we're looking at, you know, out this way, that's where we would be in if you're up against this bank right here. If that helps give you orientation on it.
I've got a few questions. Mr. Estes, so who is the owner of the property?
Who's the owner?
Yes. What's the deed? Who's the owner on the deed?
Pine Cottage Trust,
Okay.
which I'm a trustee, my wife's the other trustee.
There you go. And the easement that gets you out to Dogwood, have you got a formal written easement with that property owner?
I'm sorry.
The easement,
Yes, I have, and I provided that to staff. There's 3 easements documents. One was written incorrectly, the second 2 correct that one. So there's an easement on the bottom of the lot and an easement at the top of the lot that starts and ends right at our property line. And then at the bottom, it gives access to the bottom of the lot, but really to the lots below.
okay.
Yeah.
And when did Pine Cottage Trust buy this lot?
I'm sorry, I've got stopped up here and I'm having,
When did the trust buy the property?
let's see. We closed on that this summer. I think I've actually got a closing document. I thought that might come up.
Just the years enough,
Oh, it was this summer, this past summer.
2024?
Yeah, let me see. I can give you an exact number if you want. I'll give you.
No, I'm happy.
Yeah, I think we closed on it in, I think it might have been July of this in 2024.
Okay. Was there ever a house on that lot?
No, those lots have been vacant since the beginning of the development.
Okay.
Maybe let me just ask something.
Sure,
maybe a
sure, jump in.
clarification. So there's a driveway in the deed getting you to the property at the top.
Yes, it's described in the easement, and then the developer discontinued that as far as he could with the property above being where it was, and covers about 60 feet in our property.
And what we see at the bottom of the lot, which we would maybe say to ourselves as a street, it's an easement.
It's a gravel road, pretty much what you come in onto this property.
On the bottom.
On the bottom, it's not as clear. No one's been cleaning it up, and you gotta walk it.
So you do have right to use that to get in to put the sewer system in.
Yes, and I think that's what they did. That's where they came in.
Somebody else clarify that. We see lines on paper and then,
Yeah, both of the lanes, the gravel easements are the easements granted to this lot, as well as 3 others. This is lot 5. Lot 4 is next to us, and I think it's 7 and 8 below us. Next to the big property that's down with the gated entrance and a lot of flat land. It's to the left of that on another gravel road.
Mr. Estes, have you got a copy of your letter to Mr. Rothrock with you? Have you got a copy of your letter?
Yes, I do.
To Kevin?
Yes, I do. Just put my hands on it. That's part of the staff's package.
It should be in your packet.
Yeah, I want him to have it in front of him.
Yeah, let me just see it here. I know I've got it.
is this it dated 11/21?
Here, I've got it. I printed on both sides trying to be green and throw me off.
Variance applicants come in here all the time and don't do a very good job of making their case, of meeting those 4 factors.
Yes.
The first factor is that you would suffer, the owner would suffer unnecessary hardship without the variance. And unnecessary hardship is not defined in the North Carolina state statute, variance statute. It's not in our Blowing Rock ordinances. It's not defined. And our appellate courts, North Carolina appellate courts, have never defined it, which is, excuse me, aggravating. We turn to the UNC School of Government, who trains the legislators in Raleigh on land use law. They go around the state, they train the town councils and the county commissioners on land use law. And they have indicated that unnecessary hardship means you got more problems than most people in the neighborhood. Your lot has problems. You have unique problematic factors to do with your lot that most of the neighborhood doesn't have to deal with. And it's sort of unfair for you to have that additional hardship because of the nature of your lot. Unnecessary hardship is a horrible term. They should have said excessive hardship, unfair hardship, you know, when the zoning ordinances don't impact your neighbors as much as you, it's unfair. And that's your first factor. Then you get into the other factors, whether it's going to harm some neighbor's property. We haven't had anyone come forward tonight and complain that what you are proposing to do is going to hurt their property. Obviously, you had nothing to do with creating this land. The other factor that deals with whether you helped create the hardship, we'd have to blame the Lord for this lot. But going back to your letter, I wish all of our variance applicants wrote up something like this. You have done an excellent job of making your case, of laying out the unnecessary hardship, talking about safety, talking about keeping the land as attractive and as natural as possible. It's a wonderful letter. And now that we've heard all the evidence, we're in a minute going to go into our facts, and I want to use a lot of your letter in our facts. Your letter states facts, and it states the facts very well. I want your letter, I want the information in the letter and the way you make the case to be in the minutes. And unless somebody speaks it, it's not going to be in the minutes. So I'm going to ask you if you would please, from the very beginning, I am writing to formally request down to, you don't have to put thank you for considering this request, but I want you to put it into the minutes if you would, if you don't object.
Yes, sir.
Read the whole letter.
Okay. Well, and I appreciate your comments, and I will say that the first letter of the law is the most ambiguous and hard for an individual.
It's hard.
It's hard to say it, you know.
It's hard.
And when it really comes down to it for me, and I'm not one to talk about what I have, what I pay for things, but it does diminish the value of the lot to not be able to utilize the end of the lot, because I have no other option really to put that garage in. But so I requested this process. Our letter to Kevin Rothwick dated on November 21st, 2024. I was writing to formally request a setback variance for the property located at 659 Dogwood Lane in Blowing Rock, 28605. I do understand the importance of maintaining setback regulations to ensure orderly development, privacy, and community safety. However, in this unique case, we are requesting a variance due to the unusual steep topography of the lot, which significantly restricts
the feasible building locations. And several different heading and paragraphs here, the site conditions and constraints. This parcel features a 64% slope as determined by Land Resource Management, who has performed inspection of the septic system, limiting the available level area of both a house and detached garage. The grade change across the lot not only restricts the building footprint, but also poses potential challenges for safe access and construction stability. There is a shelf for a footer basement and terminates and results in a location within the setback of the adjoining property to the west. The existing drive and easement terminates in her property just before a steep drop-off in a 75% slope range. Location of the detached garage will provide safety and is only buildable location, albeit most will be on piers in the back of that property. Without a setback variance, construction within the standard setback would compromise structural integrity, safety, and require extensive grading that may impact neighboring properties. Now, the variance justification is granting this variance would allow for a modest reduction in setback requirements, enabling the home to be positioned safely on a more stable terrain without disrupting the natural slope. Furthermore, this adjustment would ensure that the structure remains compatible with neighborhood aesthetics and does not negatively impact the neighborhood views, drainage, or privacy. My proposed solution, we proposed a reduction to 3 feet on the northern property line for a garage setback and 5 feet setback from the western property line, allowing us to position the structure to make best use of the buildable land while minimizing grading and preserving the slope's natural character. This variance would also reduce environmental impacts by limiting the need of extensive site work.
Thank you.
Signed, Bob Estes.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Anyone else have any more questions for Mr. Estes? Mr. Estes, thank you very much. Go over there and pet your dog.
Thank you. Might need a potty break, Lisa. Thank you. Okay.
And I have to ask the question, Mr. Estes, do you have anything else you want to present?
No, I think I've presented plenty.
Okay. Mr. Johnson,
Anything else to add?
after hearing from Mr. Estes, anything the town needs to say? All right. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, now we're ready to move into our findings of fact. Do you want to leave the evidentiary hearing open in case we have to go back and ask clarifying questions, or you want to go ahead and close it?
Yes,
What's the consensus?
yes.
You want to leave it open?
Yes.
Yeah.
Leave it open.
Yeah.
Just don't let me forget to close it at the end of the facts. Let's see. This is variance application number 2024-03. The hearing date's January 23rd, 2025. I will list in our eventual write-up of the decision who the participating board members are. The applicant is Bob Estes, trustee of the Pine Cottage Trust. The owner of the property in question is Pine Cottage Trust. Pine Cottage Trust bought the property in 2024. The address of the property in question is 659 Dogwood Lane, Blowing Rock, North Carolina, and the property is located in Caldwell County. The Caldwell County PIN is 28079353310. The property is zoned R15. At the time of this application, the property is a vacant lot with no structures on it. If anybody needs to interrupt me to add something or clarify something, please, as always, jump right in. The property has 4 sides and no street frontage. The property is accessed, well, let me stop for just a
Actually
second.
has 5 sides.
Just to be technical, yeah.
All right, let's fix it.
If you're going to say how many sides it is, let's say it's 5.
How about the property has sides and has no street frontage, just sides?
Okay, yeah.
Fair enough. Mr. Johnson, this is the first one we've had like this, with no street frontage.
Correct.
It's an oddball.
That I've dealt with.
The property is accessed by means of an easement that runs from Dogwood Lane to the property.
2 reasons. They got the easement to the south.
All right, I'm going to say it's accessed by means of
Easements.
I'm going to put easements and put an S plural in parentheses. How's that?
Yeah.
Is it- Well, Mr. S could tell us. It sounds like one of the easements is not usable, just one of the two easements.
Well, one of the easements provides access to the top of the lot. The other one provides access to the bottom. The bottom one's just not as well maintained.
Okay, but it is,
But we won't use the bottom, other than septic company, I'm sure.
Yeah, there is an easement.
okay.
legal easement.
It's accessed by means of two easements. Fair enough. That run, comma, and one easement runs from Dogwood Lane to the property. Fair enough?
Yeah.
Both actually run from Dogwood Lane, both easements. One's on the north end and one's on the south end of the property. That's the best way probably I can describe it.
And these, the easements, run from Dogwood Lane to the property.
Along the property.
I prepped this before I got here, can you tell?
Yeah.
The applicant wants to do the following, which would violate zoning regulations and which would require a variance. The applicant wants to build a single-family home and a detached garage. Applicant wants to position the house such that part of the house would intrude into the 12-foot side setback on the west side of the lot. The house would intrude 7 feet into the setback, leaving a 5-foot setback at that point. Is that okay? Understandable?
Yeah.
Applicant is seeking a 7-foot variance of the required 5-foot side setback. The applicant,
12 foot.
the 7-foot variance of the required 12-foot
Yeah.
side setback, yeah. Watch me on that. The applicant wants to position the detached garage on the north side of the property such that the garage intrudes 9 feet into the required 12-foot side setback. That would leave a 3-foot setback at that point. Applicant is seeking a 9-foot variance of the required 12-foot side setback to build the garage. The Blowing Rock Zoning Code Ordinance section, which is at issue here and which stands in the applicant's way, is section 16-12.4. And put into words, the ordinance requires a 12-foot side setback from the property line. It is from the property line. Am I correct on that, Mr. Johnson?
Correct.
Requires a 12-foot side setback from the property line in which no building or construction is to be done. The topography of the lot in question is unusually steep, and the steepness of most of the lot significantly restricts feasible building locations. Fair enough? The next fact is part of the letter. This parcel features a 64% slope as determined by Land Resource Management, who has performed inspection for a septic system, limiting the available level area for both a house and detached garage. The grade change across the lot not only restricts the building footprint, but also poses potential challenges for safe access and construction stability. There is a shelf for the footer basement.
Excuse me.
That's all. Do you
That's
need
my
to-
wife looking for me. It's fine. Go ahead.
We don't want Jeannie to get upset.
No,
You
go
want to
ahead.
take a break?
No, no, no.
Okay. There's a shelf for the footer basement and results in a location within the setback of the adjoining property to the west. The existing drive and easement terminates in our property just before a steep drop off in the 75% slope range. Location of the detached garage will provide safety and is the only buildable location, although most will be on piers. Without a setback variance, construction within the standard setback would compromise structural integrity, safety, or require extensive grading that may impact neighboring properties. Continuing with the next facts. Granting this variance would allow for a modest reduction in setback requirements, enabling the home to be positioned safely and on more stable terrain without disrupting the natural slope. Furthermore, this adjustment would ensure that the structure remains compatible with neighborhood aesthetics and does not negatively impact neighboring views, drainage, or privacy. The next fact, I'm done with the letter. The next fact is the spot where applicant wants to position the house is on a natural shelf. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
There are not other parties are standing to come into this case in hearing. The applicant did provide drawings or sketches or plans or pictures illustrating what the applicant wants to do. The town of Blowing Rock has provided and given all necessary legal notices of this case and this hearing. There was proper notice of this case and hearing given to all property owners with property abutting the parcel of land which is at issue here, and proper notice was given to any other persons entitled to receive notice. The applicant did receive a copy of the zoning enforcement officer's report prior to the hearing. Well, I'm glad we kept the evidentiary hearing open because I have a few more questions of Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson, is what Mr. Estes is proposing here, would it impair emergency vehicles such as fire trucks and ambulances?
No.
Mr. Johnson, would what the applicant is proposing here, would it create a fire hazard?
Nope.
Mr. Johnson, is what the applicant is proposing here, would it block or impede visibility on any street or highway?
No, sir.
Mr. Johnson, is what the applicant is proposing here, would it be contrary to public health or safety?
No.
Unique features of this property include, I'm going to say C, fact number 5, I believe it is. It's fact number 5. That includes the portions from the letter and other information. It's for the unique features. Have I left anything out that needs to be in there? I make a motion that we close the evidentiary hearing.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Schiller. All in favor of closing the evidentiary hearing, say aye. Aye. It's unanimous. Mr. Starnes, you say?
I did say aye.
You did. I missed it. Okay, all right. Turning to our conclusions of law. Based upon the evidence presented and the facts shown above, the Board of Adjustment, I'm going to read this, is that we find he's done it, and then we'll make a motion. And if anybody finds he has not met his burden, you would simply oppose the motion. Based upon the evidence presented and the facts shown above, the Board of Adjustment finds substantial, material, and competent evidence exists to conclude that in this case, unnecessary hardship would result from the strict application of the regulations. It should not be necessary to demonstrate that in the absence of the variance, no reasonable use can be made of the property. I am going to add strict application of the zoning regulations would force either very limited use of the property or placement of building structures in awkward and possibly unsafe positions. Is anyone opposed to that addition?
No, sounds good.
Okay.
We do not opposed.
I make a motion finding that Mr. Estes has met his burden and he has presented substantial material and competent evidence exists to include, in this case, unnecessary hardship would result. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
We have a tie between Mr. Walker and Mr. Schiller. All right, Mr. Walker did the second. All in favor of finding that Mr. Estes met his burden of showing unnecessary hardship, in this case, say aye.
Aye.
It is unanimous. Factor 2, based upon the evidence presented, the facts shown above, the Board of Adjustment. Again, I'm going to phrase it as a motion saying he's met his burden of fines, and if you disagree, you would simply oppose the motion. The Board of Adjustment finds substantial material and competent evidence exists to conclude that in this case, the hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property, such as location, size, or topography. Hardships resulting from personal circumstances, as well as hardships resulting from conditions that are common to the neighborhood or the general public, may not be the basis for granting a variance. A variance may be granted when necessary and appropriate to make reasonable accommodation under the Federal Fair Housing Act for a person with a disability. And I would propose at that point then adding some facts.
You're looking for the steepness.
Yeah, I'm just going to go back to the letter again. This parcel features a 64% slope as determined by Land Resource Management, who has performed inspection for a septic system, limiting the available level area for both the house and detached garage. The grade change across the lot not only restricts the building footprint, but also poses potential challenges for safe access and construction stability. There is a shelf for the footer basement and results in a location within the setback of the adjoining property to the west. The existing drive and easement terminates in the property just before a steep drop off in the 75% slope range. Location of the detached garage will provide safety and it's the only buildable location, although most will be on piers. Without a setback variance, construction within the standard setback would compromise structural integrity, safety, or require extensive grading that may impact neighboring properties. Continuing, I'm still on factor 2. Granting this variance would allow for a modest reduction in setback requirements, enabling the home to be positioned safely on more stable terrain without disrupting the natural slope. Furthermore, this adjustment will ensure that the structure remains compatible with neighborhood aesthetics and does not negatively impact neighboring views, drainage, or privacy. Anyone want to add anything? All right, I make a motion finding that Mr. Estes has met his burden on factor 2 and he has presented substantial material and competent evidence to conclude that in this case, the hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property, such as location, size, or topography. And do I have a second for that motion?
Second.
All right, who was it that time?
That's fine.
Mr. Starnes seconded. All in favor of finding that Mr. Estes has met his burden on factor 2 and he has produced substantial material and competent evidence to conclude that in this case, the hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property, such as location, size, or topography. All in favor say aye. 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 Any opposed? So it passes unanimously. Turning to factor 3, I'll phrase this as in a motion to find that he has met his burden. And if at the conclusion, when we do the motion, if you find he hasn't, you'd simply oppose the motion. Based upon the evidence presented and the facts shown above, the Board of Adjustment finds substantial material, competent evidence exists to conclude that in this case, the hardship did not result from actions taken by the applicant or the property owner. The act of purchasing property with knowledge that circumstances exist that may justify the granting of a variance shall not be regarded as self-created hardship. I have nothing to add there. Does anyone want to add anything to it? Obviously, he wasn't there when the good Lord created this lot. I make a motion finding that Mr. Estes has met his burden on factor 3, and he has produced substantial material competent evidence exists to conclude that in this case, the hardship did not result from actions taken by the applicant or the property owner. Do I have a second for that motion?
Second.
Ms. Murphy has seconded the motion. All in favor of finding that Mr. Estes has met his burden for factor 3, and he has produced substantial material competent evidence exists to conclude in this case the hardship did not result from actions taken by the applicant or the property owner. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That one is unanimous. Turning to the fourth and last factor, based upon the evidence presented and the facts shown above, the Board of Adjustment finds substantial material and competent evidence exists to conclude that in this case, the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the regulations, such that public safety is secure and substantial justice achieved. Substantial justice is not achieved, excuse me, when granting the variance would be injurious to the neighborhood or to the general welfare. And I propose adding something from the letter. Which would be positioning the structure would make best use of the buildable land while minimizing grading and preserving the slope's natural character. This variance would also reduce environmental impacts by limiting the need for extensive site modification. Does anyone object to adding that?
No objection.
I hear no objection. I make a motion that Mr. Estes has met his burden and he has produced substantial material and competent evidence to conclude that in this case, the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the regulations such that public safety is secured and substantial justice achieved. Do I have a second for the motion?
Second.
Mr. Schiller seconds. All in favor of finding that Mr. Estes has met his burden and has produced substantial material and competent evidence to conclude that in this case, the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the regulations such that public safety is secured and substantial justice achieved. All in favor of that motion, say aye. 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 Any opposed? It's unanimous. We've all been down Dogwood Road. It's a one-lane road. You need another car. I guess they go into a driveway. I worry about the same concerns that we had with the Martella case. That once construction gets going, it's going to be so easy for construction-related vehicles to block that road. Mr. Ellis, are you worried about that?
Not really, because I've spent some time there this summer. There's quite a bit of construction at different locations. I was amazed at the way the trucks deal with that road. And we'll be able to use that easement, to stagger. We could probably line up 4 vehicles off the road easily. As long as they're all coordinated when they want to leave, as far as workers go. Deliveries will be the challenge. We'll just have to move vehicles out. Yeah.
Well, the burden's going to be on you. You just can't block the people that live there. They got to get to their house and they got to get out.
Well, sure. I think most of all the vehicles will be on our easement road, going off the main part of Dogwood Lane.
Okay, all right. It's on you.
Okay?
The Board of Adjustment does grant the applicant a variance to take the actions stated in fact number 5 above.
Did we close the evidentiary hearing?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
We did. Period. There are not additional conditions ordered by the board. This decision is effective after review and approval of the written decision by all participating board members and then filing with the clerk. And the Board of Adjustment did adopt the above conclusions of law by a vote of. Make a motion that we adopt these conclusions of law. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Ms. Murphy seconds. All in favor of adopting these conclusions of law as we just went over them, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It is unanimous. All right, Mr. Estes, you got yourself a variance.
Thank you.
All right. I move that we close this meeting of the Blowing Rock Board of Adjustment. Is there a second?
Second.
That's unanimous.
Quick.
All in favor of closing this meeting of the Board of Adjustment, say aye. Aye.
Now the fun.